welcome again to the Cloud Storage Podcast, Sabby. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm so looking forward to catching up with you again, Heather. I think it's been almost 6 months since the last time we spoke.
8 months. 8 months. Oh. I'm an accountant. I get my numbers. So, talking about numbers, you've now been CEO of Dext for 10 months. What has that time been like for you?
Do you know what? It's been, out of all the jobs I've ever had, this has probably been the one that's been the most rewarding, I would say, because, look, joining an organization that just has so much potential and then being able to realize that potential quite quickly, has been great. Just getting out and, seeing yourself and seeing the rest of the team, getting out to the regions. This will be my second trip down to Australia within that 10-month period. But just getting out and seeing accountants and bookkeepers and going to all the trade shows and regional shows, that's probably been the thing I've missed most, right, from previous roles and jobs. And look, COVID didn't make it any easier. So for me, that's been the most exhilarating, I would say, from my perspective. The other piece is just the amount of change within the organization. And really just bringing the organization and future-proofing the organization for the future. Because look, we're on a great growth trajectory, but we all know that when you sort of go through that startup, you go through that scale-up phase and you get to growth, you've really got to then start professionalizing the organization. And the team have done a brilliant job, and we're just doing everything we can to accelerate it. So yeah, it's been a great 10 months, and I'm looking forward to, the next chapter of our journey.
Absolutely. It is astonishing to me, and like I've been a big fan of Receipt Bank since the very beginning, and how something conceptually quite simple is actually so impactful on the livelihoods of business owners. And so we don't save lives, but we do save livelihoods, and your solution helps us do that. So back to another numbers question. I'm not sure if you can answer that, this one. How many users does Dext now have globally?
So we have close to 1 million. When you start taking into account all of the, we operate in Canada, in North America, we're in UK, we're in France, we're in Australia, New Zealand, but we also, on top of that, are present in other regions, France as well, not to miss France. But when you look at all of the other regions, we do have products, and Dext is used in those countries, even though we don't have a direct presence. For example, places like South Africa. So lots of users. We have relationships with about 12,500 accountants globally, which is the most important part of the relationship. So it's great having all these users, but if you don't understand the accountants and bookkeepers and the influence and the role that they play in ensuring that those small business owners are successful, that's almost a given. So for me, it's really ensuring that we continue on that journey, establish more relationships, have closer relationships, right? That advisory type role, which I know accountants play, we should be playing exactly the same role for them, right? How do you ensure that they get the best and the most amount of value? But it's a huge number of people that we are now responsible for ensuring their success. And like you said, livelihoods matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I was, I jumped into my own platform, and I went back and I found I've got receipts in there that are 10 years old. Our first one was July 2013. I think Cassandra Scott and I both claim to be almost the first people to use it here in Australia. So here in Australia, I only need to keep receipts for 7 years maximum. And I know that you have a good global, understanding of this world. Are any other countries required to keep receipts longer than 7 years?
No, they're not actually. And it's the same rule in the UK, and it's the same rule everywhere else, right? We have the ability, and even though legislation necessarily says it's 7 years, some businesses have a period longer than that. So even though it may not be a legislative requirement, we know certain businesses, when I've worked in other software companies, we used to keep it literally for 10, 15 years. And we all know how space, especially digital space, is so much more cheaper. So keeping records just, is just good common practice, because you never know, right? Even though from a tax perspective, but if you go through acquisitions, if you go through M&A, if you go through any other related, especially if you're holding in an accountant world, you're holding transactions potentially on behalf of businesses. You never know when they may need it. And for me, it's just having flexibility, right? You're not forced into, after 7 years, 8 years, sorry, your data's gone. It's like, we give the flexibility to allow clients to really choose on how they store it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was just interested in that. It's a nice little milestone to have in there and celebrate my first usage. So I understand, Sabby, that you've got some news to share with me.
We have indeed. One of the events, you can probably see from my background, I'm still here in the UK, but flying off to Sydney tomorrow for Xerocon. And one of the things that we've been working very hard with, Xero is one of our prestigious partners, right? And the relationship is great. Our largest integrated general ledger globally is Xero. We have a huge number of clients here in the UK. One of the things that we've been doing is spending a lot of time with clients of just understanding how they engage and how they interact when you've got Xero and you've got Dext together. And what can we do and what can we learn and how do we make things faster, more efficient, more effective so that they can go about doing their job and ultimately save time, right? Because it's all about making individuals and people more efficient and effective in the job that they do so that they can then spend that extra time to go and add more value-added services and help clients and almost elevate themselves in the conversation to a higher degree where, you're adding on more additional questions, services and, other advisory services that you maybe weren't doing before. So one of the things that we've been doing is that we've come up with something which is called a extension, right? So we called it Dext Extension. So what is that? So let me give you an example, right? Imagine your web browser is like a toolbox, right? It's a browser extension, basically like Dext Extension. It's like adding a special tool to that box. So just like how a specific tool can help you fix something faster or more efficiently, our Dext Extension helps your browser work better with Xero, right? So Dext Prepare and Dext Precision. It's like giving your browser a little helper to make certain tasks easier and quicker, especially for your accounting and bookkeeping needs, right? You don't need to know all the technical details. Just know it's designed to make your work smoother and more efficient. So let me give you an example, right? A real life example. You're an accountant doing the bank rec for a client. You can see that a large supplier payment has been made, but are not quite sure which sales invoice that payment relates to. You see Dext Extension has added an item icon on the bank transaction, right? It's like a paperclip icon. And you can hover over it, pop up the supplier statement as published from Dext. You can quickly see the invoice numbers on the image, which helps you effortlessly select the correct invoices in Xero's find and match screen, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. You don't need to go back to the supplier profile in Xero or Dext to find all of the associated invoices to then decipher which ones related to that payment in the bank rec, right? You're in the item space in Dext Prepare and are unsure which category to assign to this cost item. The extension gives you the option to review which category has been assigned to other purchases from that same supplier in the client's Xero account. You can now make a quick informed decision about what categorization without manually having to check. So that's just one example. We've got multiple bills to pay, warning triangles. We bring in precision health score into the extension, which wasn't there. We've got things around paperwork screen and being able to identify, sometimes people want to be able to take certain actions based on certain invoices. We've now included the ability to put that information into your notes and then automatically navigate straight through either to Gmail or to Google, Outlook, send those emails almost straight away and get that efficiency in relation to getting questions answered extremely rapidly. So there are a number of these types of features and functions that we've put into the tool, which we believe will save literally, hours in the day, weeks in the month, all of those types of activities. And we believe it's really going to help enhance that overall interaction and engagement between the two products. So we're really excited about being able to launch this next week, and we will continue to really listen, understand what else can we do to make that integration and the experience from a user and from a client perspective so much easier and so much faster between the two applications.
Excellent. So you're eliminating clicks, steps, and then surfacing data, which is always what we need to check to ensure we have accuracy of our files.
Absolutely. And data is the most important piece, right? Because, I think you said it right at the beginning where, the job of us at Dext is really to try and make sure that data is available and processed quicker, faster, and in the hands of the accountant and bookkeeper and the client as quickly and as fast as possible. Because only then can you make informed decisions, right? It's almost impossible to make decisions around your business if the data is still sort of hanging out in the plethora and out in the cloud waiting for it to be processed. You want to know where it is, why isn't it being processed, etc. And that's really what Dext Extension does, is it allows you to be able to see all of the information that wouldn't have automatically have been so obvious. Now what we're doing is we're making it really obvious to Dext users and Xero users that you still have all of these items still outstanding, giving you warning signals and triangles. And without having to go find it, just click on buttons and it will go and find it for you.
Absolutely. So what is the process for end users to access these new features?
Yeah, so one of the things we're doing is that we, rather than make it available to everybody from day one, we want to be able to learn the process. And in order to actually get hold of the extension, we will be allowing people to come and register with us so we know who's actually using it. Then it's so much easier to get feedback and understand whether it's having problems and experiences. So all of that will be released next week. We've already got close to 100 individuals and people already registered, and we'd love to see a lot more. So yeah, all of the information will be shared when we launch next week.
So it works on, I believe, Chrome extension. Does it work on any other web browsers?
No, this is specifically feature around Chrome and the ability to put in these particular types of features and functions within Chrome at the moment. Other browsers may make that available, but this was the easiest one for us to really come to market quite quickly. And it's, the real cool feature on this header is we're not charging for it. This is just a free feature that will be available to anybody that is using Xero, using our products. And we just feel it's it's not something we should really be charging for when it makes us actually more effective and makes the bookkeeper and the accountant more effective when they have this. So yeah, it's almost like a present that we're offering to.
It's always, since we've moved from desktop where a disk would arrive every year, it's always been interesting navigating conferences like XeroCon. It's like, are we going to release something or aren't we going to release something? Because we've probably released 100 little iterations through the year. So it's interesting. I'm finding solutions are like, yeah, we need to release something for XeroCon. So that's good to hear, and I'm sure people will be very excited about that. How does it align with your company's overall strategy?
Look, it fits in extremely well. We absolutely believe that partnerships are the core of both our success and the accountants and bookkeepers' success. The last thing accountants and bookkeepers want to be doing is having a plethora of applications out there that aren't talking to each other. So having the ability to be able to integrate, work closely, be it Xerocon, we work closely with QuickBooks and all of the other major providers. But for us, this partnership is probably the most important because of the amount of clients that we have from an integrated perspective on the general ledger. So yeah, look, it's, for us, it's great to have such a strong partnership. And it's the foundations, right? Almost the foundations of our strategy around ensuring that in order for accountants and bookkeepers need to be successful, more efficient and effective, which is our strategy. What can we do to help them? We just look at all of the different things, and the best way of doing it is actually talking to people, right? Which is what we did. Look, listen, see how they use the application, spend hours and hours of just going through footage. And it wasn't just actually the customer success and the experience teams. It's the developers, right? When a developer can actually see, oh, so that's how they use the product, and then be able to actually go through and say, actually, I could make that life so much easier just by changing this, adding this, moving this. It's not until developers see the real life experiences and having them go through this for hours and hours that you then realize they get to the aha moment, right? Which is always what we want clients to get to. They get to it as well. So yeah, look, it's absolutely fundamental to our overall strategy around listening and watching and learning from what's really going on out in the business.
So, for the, Dext, I always tripped up them. Dext has lots of, passionate advocates. How do they ensure their voice is heard? What is the best channel for them to go through to ensure their voice is heard for features and functionality developments like this?
Yeah, look, great question, Heather. We have multiple different streams. One is that we obviously look at all of the marketplaces and look at all of the feedback and everything that's coming through there. We look at G2, we look at Capterra, we look at Trustpilot, all of those different components. We also have a user voice. The ability to be able to do, and all clients have access to it. And what it does is it allows you to be able to come in and vote on features or put forward enhancements and development requests. And then our team monitor that. Literally every time we come to looking at the product roadmap, what are the cool features and functions that people have been asking for? And again, I'll be honest, right? Before I came on board, we weren't probably seen as the most innovative organization. But if you look at what's happened literally in the last 6 months, there was a feature that everybody was asking around multi-account selection and just being able to, if you're an accountant and bookkeeper and you were going through multiple clients, you used to have multiple email addresses. We've addressed that issue. It's the number one thing that was being requested for 10 years and then we didn't never develop it. And within 3 months of coming in, we sort of looked at it and sort of said, guys, let's stop doing what we're doing. Let's look at the user voice. Let's really concentrate on what people are asking for. We've done that. There was an expenses module that people were after and some functionality there. That's already been done. We're setting time aside specifically just for user voice and development. And the other thing also is the regional advisory boards that we're now starting to set up as well, where we're trying to identify who are the most influential accountants and bookkeepers within the region who know what's going on from a legislative, from a compliance, have a real strong temperature check. People like yourself, Heather, right, who understand really what's going on in the market that can then help us identify what are the things that we should be thinking about, but also I always look at this as a two-way thing, right? It'd be great if we could share with you, here's what we're thinking of doing. Here's what our product roadmap looks like for the region. Is there anything that we're missing? Here's the communication process. And communication, working with accountants and bookkeepers, probably one of the most difficult things because, they know so much, right? It's not as if you have to go back to 101. I've had that conversation before. Got some real bright people. So how do you make sure that you get it at the right tone that you're trying to address that cohort of individuals as well as, new entrants? And the best way of doing that is actually getting people in a room and asking them rather than us believing that we know that's what it does. So yeah, multiple channels. But I think for me, the one I'm looking most forward to is the advisory boards, because that's when, it's a two-way conversation rather than when you look at user voice and all these other places, it's here's what I want, here's what I want. But there's also, as a CEO, there's things I want from the community as well. And that can only be done through these types of conversations, discussions, face-to-face, advisory board type discussions.
Yeah, absolutely. And so anyone listening in, I think Sabby's given you a few ways to get involved. So please, get involved if that is of interest to you. And I know that a lot of people in the account tech world actually like a solution that is going to listen to them, and that's actually part of their adoption strategy. And sometimes they get into solutions at a very early stage so they can shape it. So if they can hear that they can they've got opportunities to shape it. It's more interesting proposition for them.
Yeah.
So Sabby, you're about to attend your very first XeroCon. What are you looking forward to?
Probably the most important thing is, I've got a number of meetings lined up with Xero themselves, right? And just being able to meet all the executive team and just ensure that they understand how important they are to us, right? So that's sort of one component. Second piece is just getting to meet so many more accountants and bookkeepers. Because it's, being able to see that many people in one place is great, right? So I'll be on the stand and, going to all of the side events and activities and trying to get myself out to as many people. So those are two are probably the most important things, and really seeing what are other people doing, right? And how are other people innovating, and how are other people engaging, right, with the accountants and bookkeepers, and what can we learn from that? Because look, we don't always have all the answers. We don't always get it right on the first occasion. So for me, I learn more from what goes wrong sometimes than necessarily what goes right. And being able to be that open to criticism and understanding, and I flourish with that, because to me that's how we learn, that's how we develop. You don't learn and develop by just doing the same thing or first time, second time, and continue to do it. So for me, that's the most important thing, and the most thing I'm looking forward to.
Excellent. Yeah. No, look, I always think that those conference events, you're amongst the best of the best in the industry who are really the driving force behind the engine, driving the economy of the country. And so it's a really opportunity to be impactful. And sometimes the best moments of the event are in the corridors and these accidental intersections of someone who shares something with you that's like, wow, that's really, really, okay, I get where you're coming from. So there's always so much opportunity, and I kind of say magic to be had at these conferences. So looking forward to seeing you, and you're joining the Xero Mastermind Pre-Con. We're very excited about that.
Yes, and that should have been one of the other things I was most excited about. That's the reason why I didn't include it. That's almost a given, right? Just having the ability to have, and this is an important one, is just conversations around specific topics which are top of mind, right? Because it's so easy to get dragged into just a general conversation, but when you really get to the things that you want to talk about, which is, what's going on in the job world, what's going on with AI, what's going on with data legislation, what's going on with all of the things that really impact accountants and bookkeepers, and having a real good conversation with experts in, different fields. And the thing I love about what you've done there, Heather, is the panel that you brought has come from so much from a diverse background, right? You've got international, you've got local players, you've got, people who absolutely understand the content and understand local legislation, and then just being able to bring it all together. So I'm really, really looking forward to just the ability to have that conversation.
Oh, it's going to be fabulous. And we've got, I'm not sure if Ali is coming from Adelaide, and we know Adelaide as Radelaide. That's what all the locals call it, Radelaide. And I've been running these pre-con events, which is a casual gathering of the best in the industry for many years. And I think the second or third one, Rod came and spoke at it. And he stood on the floor, and I thought he had a prepared speech, and he got the microphone. He goes, ask me questions. And I was like, oh, no prepared speech. Anyway, he spoke for like 25 minutes. And his PR team ran around the room saying, delete all the videos.
Well, you'll be glad to know I'm not bringing a PR team, so whatever I say will go.
Is out in the world. So yeah, no, that was a fun event. We always, it's always a wonderful opportunity to ease into, Xerocon Week and Magnificent Week. So I look forward to seeing you next week. And this podcast will be a little weird in timeline in that it will come out, after we've been. But I'm sure many people will have connected with you, and I hope that it all goes very well for you. So thank you so much, Sabby, for joining us on the Cloud Stories podcast. It's been really fun having you here.
It's been great, Heather, and I really do look forward to catching up with you next week.
Oh, awesome.
Take care.